Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Langford. I'm a recording engineer, music producer, and mixer based in Toronto, Canada. Welcome back to Let's Mix Live, where I live stream some mix sessions in Pro Tools, start to finish, warts and all, showing you some production techniques to help make your music sound better as well. So lots of different ways to make that happen. Not here to show you what you should do, but what you could do. So let's get started. We are working on a new song today. Just making sure this is working. Working on a new song today. The band is called Impossible Colors. The song is called Dune Rider. This was actually suggested from one of our viewers. Hiccup on the music. Suggested from one of the viewers. I decided to move it up the list of songs to work on because I heard it and I loved it. Decided let's get working on that one next. So let's hop over. Oh, actually, before we go there, where do I find these sessions? There's a website called Cambridge Music Technology. Link below if you're watching on YouTube. Fantastic resource for new mixers, old mixers, especially if you want to branch outside of your genre. Often we get pigeonholed into certain genres. So if you want to work on folk, you want to work on metal, it's all there for you. Again, Cambridge Music Technology. They're there for educational purposes. That's what we're here for. Education and entertainment. Don's joining us. Says, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. I appreciate you passing this song over to me. I've went through everything on the site, but sometimes things get overlooked. Then again, you can't listen to every single song, but I just kind of skim around a little bit. So let's hop into this. The warning, the disclaimer. When I'm EQing and sweeping around stuff, just be mindful of your levels if you're listening on headphones or monitors or your line array PA system you have in your basement. You know who you are. Just be listening at moderate conservative levels. That's probably the best thing to do. So you don't want anything to happen to your gear or your ears. All I've done so far is download the full preview, so the reference track that is there, and I've also downloaded and imported all the tracks. There's 33 tracks, so there's quite a few things, but still, like a third of it is just drums. There's 11 tracks for drums here, 2 for bass, bunch of guitar, so Hammond, so there's some keys there, and there's some Rhodes, and then there's a bunch of tracks of vocals. So they got some stacked harmonies here and stuff like that. Don't say happy birthday, Mom. It is my mom's birthday today. I don't have a more relevant or a recent picture, so that's probably you have to wait for a few days, but happy birthday, Mom. So all I've done is import our sessions here. Oh, why I'm late today. I'm going to hit Command S, and hopefully you can see that in the bottom right-hand corner. I was trying to get it to work, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to just make it happen. So hopefully there's still some finessing to do to get this thing to work so we can see it. But I told you I was going to have it happen by the end of the year, and it's not the end of the year yet. So, yeah, I've just brought in the tracks, and then I brought in the preview, and I brought in the 1 kilohertz test tone just to use that to make sure my rig's working here. Hopefully don't have the same hiccup that we had last session where all of a sudden I couldn't hear anything at all. And I thought that was amazing that Pro Tools decided to do that. So just going to listen to our 1 kilohertz test tone here just to make sure everything's working the best it should. So 3, 2, 1. I love that. I love how it sounds. It's so test-tony. So I'm just going to go ahead and make those inactive. So my rules for these mix throughs, no bringing in any of my templated mix stuff. I try to build it from scratch as we're going, but presets are okay. Don't shy away from presets, anybody out there. You don't need to make life more difficult than it already is. So let's go ahead and hit save as. I'm going to call this mix prep 1. Whoa, look at all those keys commands over there. I haven't actually used it with this yet, so it could be a bit of a thing today with all the key commands up the side. But sometimes you try things beforehand, and sometimes you try things in real time. And I can live dangerously like that. So go ahead and bring in master fader here. Highly recommend always having that so you can see what your levels are looking like leaving the system. Let's have a listen here. Warning, I didn't listen to the lyrics very closely, but it did say explicit lyrics. So I'm not sure what we're going to be in for yet. All I know is that musically, I thought it was pretty cool. So lyrically, it may be, I may be in for a surprise because we just finishing up the Candlebox Happy Pill song. I made a thing about cuss words and whatnot in songs. So who knows what's going to be happening in this one. We're going to have a listen straight through. I'm going to use my analog writing tool here, pen and paper, as we're going through to make some notes for things that I'm listening for or things that I think could, that we can lean on. There's usually instrumentation or something where like, that's what we can lean on because it sounds great. And there's usually stuff that you kind of need to hide a little bit or that may be challenging, more challenging to work with. So Don says, I think there's just a little in the beginning only. Okay. Cause I thought about that after. I was like, I really didn't listen through the vocals that well when I was bringing this up this morning. So we'll see what it is. Anyways, this is Dune Rider by Impossible Colors with a U. So now I'm curious where they're from. Americans get that. Canadians get that. All right, be right back. Okay, that is Dune Rider by Impossible Colors. Made some notes. One thing I did want to mention here, because again, I did listen through this today. I was like, yep, let's do this. This song is coming in at realistically 6:30. But this part here, this 4:23 part, that's the song. This is kind of outro stuff. This 2.5 minutes here. So sometimes you need to keep that in mind with some of these longer tunes, because maybe there's a giant solo section. Sometimes there's a giant intro. Sometimes there's a giant outro. So I would consider this whole section over here as kind of a giant outro. So the bulk of the work we're doing is here. And I would also say too, you could probably mix this song in that little chunk right there. And then the rest of it's probably going to sound 80 or 90% of there. I could eat my words. It's been recorded. So if that happens, it's been documented. But often with these types of tracks where a band's playing and it feels pretty live, even though looking at this tracking, it's pretty clean. So it does look like a studio recording to me. Like multi-tracked, not live recording, because I'm not seeing any bleed between everything here all the time. So anyways, enough to chatting about that. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll just make this inactive. So I still want to have this up here for a second. There was a README file that came with this, and it said that the tempo is approximately 120. So we're just going to leave it at that instead of farting around trying to get a tempo on this. We'll just take their word for it. So what I want to do right now is we'll just do this. Make a group here. So we'll call this all tracking. And I'm really not sure how the what's it called? Showing the key commands off to the side. We're in uncharted waters right now with that. Let's put it in grid mode. So we're just gonna keep it on 120. I know that the tempo is not 4/4. I think it's 5/4, but it changes a lot. So we're just gonna mix this, which sounds probably pretty obvious because that's, you know, we're live streaming mix sessions, but we're not gonna fuss too much with finding the tempo and all the meter changes and stuff like that. We're just gonna roll with it. So, okay, so we got everything pulled over here. I don't like starting at the very, very beginning of the session. So if I have any samples or any loops or anything that we need to kind of tuck over here, it's a lot better to just leave some space for that. I'm going to go ahead. Let's bring this up. That's fine. First thing I like to do, again, I say that a lot, even though we're like probably a few steps in. Our musical families here. We have our drums, we have our bass, we have our guitars, we have our keys, we have the Hammond and the Rhodes, and then we have our vocals. So we have 5 families to work with right now, our musical group. So let's go ahead, I'll make 5 of those. I'll hit create, and let's call this drums master. Drums, plural, not drummed. There we go. Bass master. Even though bass is mono, I still make a stereo file for it. Guitar master, and keys master, and Vox master. And now we can go ahead and we'll just start dropping these in. I've already screwed things up, so I wasn't paying attention. Those are all audio tracks, not actually aux tracks. I want to make subgroups. So thought I had that, but I didn't. Those aux tracks, and then we're making 5 of those in stereo. There we go. I should have saw, because I keep the colors here all default, so I should have noticed that. Thinking about the Leafs game. Can't help it. And what was it? Keys. And we'll just start dropping these in. So I use my subgroups and my auxes as kind of dividers too. That's why I don't color code everything. Whatever works for you, by all means do that. But I like just keeping this default colors for the tracks. So all your tracks are blue. Auxes are green. Instrument tracks are orange, I think. And master fader is red. All right, so everything's split up there now. Or just symbols at the end there. I should refer to my notes here for a second. Things that I noticed was going on. There's some effects on the vocals, like a phaser or flanger or something like that, some type of modulation effect on there. And it's kind of filtered and kind of has a little bit of distortion on it or something like that. So we'll figure out if that's in the track. We'll figure out if that was added after. There's tempo changes and meter changes in there. So we'll just kind of work with that best we can. If some of our delays start to act up a little bit, then we'll try to get in there and figure out what the tempo is for that, because we can automate the timing on our delays if we need to. The vocals seem really buried to me. That's not my approach. I usually like to be able to hear the words, even if they're explicit. And we can always edit those out. So I just want to bring those vocals out a little bit more. Tuning the vocals. There's a couple spots that jumped out at me, so we might need to tune some vocals on this. Didn't look like there was a whole ton. So we'll see if we need to get in there and give them a little bit of a tune-up. There's the guitar solo. It was off to the side, so maybe bring that over to the middle a little bit more. There's a lot of hiss and hum on the guitar, so we can clean that up. Isotope RX, we can clean that stuff up. There's lots of kind of like swirly, soupy, panty stuff going on, so I just need to figure out if that's on stereo tracks or if that's something you did during mix. And then the outro, how to handle that 2.5 minutes at the end there. So there's quite a bit going on, but I think once we get our drums, like once we get our balance of our band, be it 4-piece or 5-piece band or whatever this, probably at least a 4-piece. Once we have that kind of balance, I think the song's going to come together fairly quick. But again, in my mind, I can hear where, like, what I want to come out of the speakers. It's a matter of listening through the tracking to hear if we actually have the pieces that we need. So, all right, let's start digging in here a little. Actually, let's go ahead and make our groups here as well. Just checking something. There's a hum in my system today, but whatever. Okay, so we have our group there first. We'll call this all drums. This makes it really easy for messing around with our subgroups, for just balancing everything. And we'll call this all bass, even though there's just one real bass track. There's a DI there and there's an amp track, so I'm curious to hear what their amp sounds like. And all guitar and all keys and all Vox. All right, so that's going to make it a little bit easier for rebalancing. So what I like to do, what else we need to do here? Oh, because these are auxes, we're going to put these in solo safe. So if we solo something on our subgroup here, it's still going to pass through. So just hold Command and then click the button. Click the button as in click the solo button in Pro Tools. And you'll see it become grayed out. And that's how you know it's working. Don saying, Leslie came back. My comment still has in there just about the game. Oh, I don't know. Was it on YouTube or was it on... Oh, because it thought it was bad. I have YouTube open off to the side here. I see it now. I think it just got blocked because maybe the emoji or something like that. All right, so what I like to do is it's going to go over back to our edit window. If you click on this little button over here, it'll bring up this window. So that shows you the meter for our master here. If you hit this button, that red button there, it'll keep it always on top there. So I like to kind of have that up there, especially in the early stages, so that I can see what the meters look like. So let's, we're just going to do kind of a faders up mix here. So we'll just start here. And we can just undo that. So now, because we have this all in a group, all these faders will move at the same time. So we're going to take all those tracks there, hold Shift and Option, and we're going to switch the output to bus 1 and 2. I don't name my buses. I just do 1 and 2 for, actually, we'll just go do the rest of these two. 1 and 2 is my drums, 5 and 6 is my bass. Guitars are 3 and 4. These keys, I don't generally have one for keys and stuff. Let's take, I think 17, 18. That sounds pretty good. Input 17 and 18. those inputs as well. I really haphazard order of doing things sometimes, so either you like that or you don't. And then our vocals, bus 7 and 8. So now that's all going through our buses there. So back to our drums. Because we have these all grouped, we can move all those faders together, but if you hold Control on a Mac, you can move one fader at a time. Pro Tools is Pro Toolsing right now. There we go. Just going to hit save as well. Always save. You never know. Don's saying a hockey stick and a yeah, I guess YouTube wasn't sure about that, because I do have it filtering certain things on there just in case. So, all right. So we're going to hit play on this. I'm hearing bass in there, so there might be some bass and drums were done at the same time. So we can see our meter in the top left there. I usually try to keep my peaks on my kick between -6 and -10. That is quite loud. It's probably clipping when they were recording. Overall, it sounds pretty good. I hear hi-hat on the left. I'm just double checking. Rather be fool for a second. I hear hi-hat on the left more. So this may be player perspective. We may be on the drum kit. So we'll just maybe bring our hi-hat over there just in case. And ride should be on the other side. And we'll see what happens with these toms here. Let's bring those up a little bit. Again, I'm just holding Control because these are all in a big group right now. So if it's player perspective, our toms should probably be something like that. Very, very live sounding kit. Yeah, okay, so that little fill, I heard the drums go from left to right. Okay, there's 2 floor toms. That's what it sounds like. So we'll move this over. That's some funky kick drum. We'll go through these sources a bit more finer detail in a bit, but just getting the faders up, just kind of having a listen to what's going on here. That doesn't sound too bad. It's our bass here. So there's a lot of bleed in the bass amp. So we'll probably lean on the DI more. We'll get Santamp to happen on that. I did get Parallax, Neural DSP Parallax. I just haven't installed it yet. I'm one of those where like I'll buy something and then it just like stays in the box for a while. All right, so it's drums and bass. It all sounds decent. Let's have a listen to our guitars here. Excuse me, I'm seeing stereo guitar tracks. Now these may be mono guitar tracks, but they were just exported in stereo, or maybe there are stereo. So let's have a listen to the first one here. I do have a correlation meter. I don't know if those have to be stereo. As of right now, there may be 2 microphones on the amp. But I don't think those need to be stereo tracks, so we'll address that in a bit. Let's have a listen to these. That is dirty fuzz. Or might be to overdrive, not sure. Yeah, those don't need to be stereo, so we'll deal with those in a second. That could be exporting, that could be there's something that I'm missing there, but I don't believe I'm missing something on that. That's just one guitar, so maybe leave that one. Like, there's a little bit of width to it, but not enough that I would keep those as stereo tracks. Because I'd rather have the freedom to move them around. Now, I might keep these because they have the delay on them. Okay, so I'll keep those two as stereo. And let's have a listen to this last one here. Oh, that's the outro stuff. Even that. We could maybe keep that stereo, but I don't think it's that important. We might make those two mono so that we can mess around with it. We'll call it outro at most. All right, that all makes a lot of sense so far. All right, the organs. This is where, with this style of music, this is these keys here. We can lean on these probably quite a bit to make it loud. It's gonna tame that bass there for a second. Yeah, you add some dirt to that and it's gonna sound awesome. All right, what's this? Pro Tools, there you go. I could sense it, I could feel it sometimes. Don says, how long is this track? It's about 4:30 and then the outro is about 2:30. And then the outro. Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's outro. That's outro. There's definitely some things to like lean on in this track. And the musicianship sounds really good too. Which is the important bit on songs like this. Well, there's some cymbal stuff over there too. I was gonna grab that. What is this? We can probably add some. We can probably make these mono and then add some movement to those as well. Okay, that's that. Now, moment of truth here. Let's have a listen to. Again, this looks really clean, so I'm curious what's going on here with the vocals. Probably need to turn them up. That's gonna help. Let's bring those up.
Do your deeds of selfish love in Father's name. Do your deeds of selfish love in Father's
Okay, so no bleed. That's good. This looks like there's no bleed on the backing vocals.
Ho, ho, hoo, hoo. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Hoo,
Just want to hear.
praise the Lord. Hallelujah, praise the Lord.
A little pitchy, little pitchy. All right, so might be a little bit of tuning to do. That is not a today problem. That's a next time problem. All right, so listening through, this sounds pretty good as far as the tracking and everything. So okay, are those vocal effects? They are not there. Okay, so those are things we can address. Well, when I get into the vocals, we'll try to bring out that sound that they had. I always recommend if you're tracking and you have like a dedicated, very specific sound for guitar or bass or vocals and stuff, print those as well. So they're there if you need them, but if the mixer thinks they can get a better sound, the option is there. Because it could save someone a lot of time when you have to chase something that the band had on their demo or in their reference, and they're trying to explain it. And it's like, we should have just printed it. Oh, I thought maybe you'd have something better. Well, no, you're attached to the one you had now. So let's just go with that. And we'll just clean it up a little bit. But all right, next thing I like to do is go through and rename these tracks. So we can grab our all tracking group that we have there. And this should grab everything, and it does. I'll just bring this down. So we're going to do, this is the thing that I like to do, is Shift and Option. So what's going to do is, I'm going to click this button up here, duplicate our playlist. So it's going to make a new playlist for everything. Reason I do this, so if we ever need to go back in time to a playlist, because kind of like, playlists are kind of like pages in a book. So if there's any issues, we can always go backwards and dig it out should something happen. Or should someone say you tune vocals and the band's like, we like the original vocals better, we thought they'll give you like a big list of reasons emotionally why they like the originals better. I can give them like 2 technical reasons why we tuned it. It was pitchy and it was timey, but for them, if they want to put the originals back in, it's easy just to go to your playlist and you can just pop back one playlist and you're good. So I'm going to clean up these track names a little bit. So I usually just call this Vox 1, actually Vox Lead 1. And .c, so it's the comp that we're using. If we're comping .c, if it's timing or tuning, use a T. If we're doing any denoising stuff, I use a D, a Z, so I can see everything. I can always go back to different versions of things we're working on. So we're going to change that to that. Vox Lead 2, so Vox Lead 2. And this is Vox Lead 2 D2, whatever that is. Gonna hop over here for a second. Oh, it could be double. Vox Lead 2. Sometimes I just call something else. It's called like 2B. And that works. Vox Lead 3. And Vox BG 1. BG2. I always keep the family names. I try to keep them the same first letter. So if we need to export everything, it's all going to come up together. They've done a really good job on this site where all the tracks have numbers before them. So everything comes up nicely organized. What is this? That's the Hammond 1. And make that Hammond 2. Rhodes 1. We don't need 1 because there's only one of those. And that's Rhodes Effects. All right, so there's a bunch of guitars here. I already really do feel like, I know we try to keep our feelings out of all this, but I already feel like we can make all of these tracks, instead of being stereo, we can make these tracks mono. So you can just right click on them and go to split to mono. And all these other tracks have opened up. Now it's just complete chaos over here. So we're going to have the stereo track and then split to the left and the right. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get rid of the stereo and the right for all of these. I just want to keep the left one because I don't feel like it makes a difference when I was listening to the correlation, or I was watching the correlation meter for all these. So we'll just get rid of all those. And the right one, double check. stereo right, stereo right, stereo right, stereo right, stereo right. Right click on that, go to delete. This is, or we could actually, let's do this. We'll go hide and make inactive. We could delete it and it'd probably be fine, but we'll just make it inactive. So these are all on the right, on the left side right now. So we can just highlight all those, hold shift and option and click on that. And that put them all mono again. Okay, now what I wanted to do that first because when we're renaming this and we split to mono, then we have to rename them again. So we can call this guitar 1 and .c, guitar 2, guitar 3, guitar 4, guitar 5. Is there one more here? There's one more. And guitar 6. And then down here we'll do guitar 7, guitar 8. That looks pretty good. And down to the bass here. Bass is looking pretty good. DI and the amp. So well labeled. I can't type. And then our drums. And a ride cymbal. And our overheads. So overheads, to me, it sounded like the hi-hats were on the left and the ride cymbals on the right. So that gives me the idea that it's player perspective. So we are on the drums. So what we can do is just put that high to low. And overheads too, same thing. There's 2 sets here. And tom 1, tom 2, and tom 3. It sounds like 1 rack tom, 2 floor toms. Now there's cymbals overdrive, so we'll just kind of leave that labeled the way that it is so we're not confusing ourselves. And that's that. That's all of the drums. Those are all the drums there. Next thing I want to do is just clean up. I'm going to just suspend my groups, so Shift Command G to do that. Next thing I want to do is just go through, and we can use strip silence. So that is, I don't even know where that is over here. Edit, strip silence. I just know to Command U. What this can do is it helps speed up if we want to clean up the empty space on tracks. I don't like seeing these full tracks here. It gives me anxiety not being able to just quickly see where these things are appear on the track here. So it's gonna, there's no real rules here of how to set our start and end pad here. But that looks pretty good. So when we hit strip, this just clears everything on either side of it. I like doing that. I usually do that manually, at least to tidy up the rest of it. But all these tracks here, again, we can just use strip silence on it. And have a listen through. Sometimes you can chop some stuff you shouldn't, but that's why we have all the playlists. So if we need to fix anything or something's missing, we can quickly go there and get it. And this is all prep stuff. We might spend, you know, a few hours prepping things and cleaning things up. Again, usually I have something on, like, you know, X-Files or Leafs game or something like that. But all right, so we've been in grid mode for a while. Let's put it into slip mode. And let's just tidy up some of these fades here. That sounds pretty good, actually. Again, do you need to do this? No, you do not. But these things just make me feel better about life. Feel free to put in the comments on YouTube things that make you feel better about life. All right, our guitars here. Let's go ahead and grab these. I'm excited to hear what these guitars sound like hard panned left and right. There's noise on these guitars too. That is one roomy sounding guitar. So we could clean up a lot of that if we wanted to, but we can just kind of manually gate or just kind of manually clean that stuff up like that. And if we're still hearing noise, we can always just be more aggressive with this. I'm curious if one guitar amp has bleed and another one doesn't, because sometimes when there's one guitar player, they'll do the one track live and they'll do the second track by themselves as an overdub. That's a very efficient way of working as well. Okay, there's a lot of kind of garbage going on there, but we'll hear in the track if it's important or not. Full disclosure, I will have the Leafs box score off to the side. It's kind of a nothing game. Like, very little can be decided at this point in the Leaf season. But I'm always curious. It's getting interesting in a way to see if the Leafs can do what so many people believe they cannot, which is get through the first round. That looks pretty good. See, some of this stuff might be useful. It might just be garbagey noodling. We'll have a listen in the track to see if we need that stuff, but we probably don't. It's like there's garbagey stuff there, but it's not doing anything. Okay, so again, just to fade in, fade out in case there's anything that's going there. We'll see what's going on with this section later on. Because it, to me, kind of sounds like it's just noodling. So it may not have made the actual mix, like the preview mix that they have, but we'll have a listen later. These big gaps here. I'm not hearing any noise on these. So they may have cleaned this up already. This is just for me. Don says, getting interesting. A bit of stress. Matthews isn't playing tonight. Well, the thing is, like, he may be injured. He may, like, he just might not be 100%, but also, like, if there's other people that need to kind of, or should play these not important games, like, we have an idea what, sorry for music fans that aren't into NHL right now. Or any Habs fans are listening, or any Boston. Well, actually, Boston's got lots of reasons to listen, but the idea where maybe he's staying out of the lineup to let somebody else be in the lineup, and the coach had like really weird line combinations last game. So there could be a little bit of strategy there. It could be just letting people play and to try to loosen the team up a little bit. So who knows? A little bit of reverb on that. I like playoffs in general for sports. That's like, I like when you can kind of tell who actually wants to win. Because I think there's, as much as we think that everyone wants to win, like some people see jobs as a job. And if you're playing pro sports and that's your job, so be it. But like once you get into playoffs, you see how bad some people want to win and not just have their job. So hopefully that makes sense to somebody. It makes sense to me. Okay. All right. We got through all of that. We still have this one more up here to clean up. Use strip silence on that. See what happens. So we're moving along here. We'll see where we get to tonight. And turn off our groups. Just tidy up that beginning there. This looks like pretty clean vocals, which is fantastic. Clean as in recording. Normally too, like this amount of prep, actually not saying this amount of prep, but I usually try to do all this stuff in a sitting or two the night before I actually get to work, because it feels really good to just open up a session and everything's laid out, and you know, not everyone has an assistant. So it's nice to just be able to open up your session and everything's kind of laid out that you the way that you like it. So kind of it's a good way to start the day. So that all looks good. Hopefully the key commands that are showing in the bottom right hand corner, hopefully they're not distracting, but hopefully they're helpful. Hopefully they're actually like they're legible. I can actually see what's going on there. I think there's some clip gain stuff to address in this one too. There's a couple, like those bass tracks are really hot. Those the kick and snare were super hot at times. We'll probably end up triggering off of those tracks. Kick and snare. Kick for sure. I'd rather use triggers than like, you know, limit or compress the snot out of it. I just find you're usually missing some frequencies anyways. So you can work smart or you cannot. So, all right, looks pretty good. What's going on down here? So the Rhodes is coming in. Looks good. All right, I think it might be in pretty good shape. All right, so we cleaned up all this. I was a little bit at the vocals over here. All right, that could be good. That could be good for all of that. What is this? Drums. Okay, so these drums kind of fade out. So what we can do, we'll just grab all of that and we'll just fade those out. Excuse me. So we're not really worrying about what they're doing later on. We'll know that they have disappeared. Our bass. Excuse me. It's funny how much carbonation is in water, apparently. All right, this bass here, let's have a quick listen to that. There's the drums bleeding into the microphone for the amp there. And there's this and that. All right, I think this is all cleaned up. I think this all looks better to me. So again, having, okay, this high risk maneuver, having all of this or did it not do all the tracks? I guess it didn't do all the tracks. But having all of that so you can see like how much more you can butchering the language right now. But just seeing those full tracks that are here versus being able to see this all kind of cleaned up. I know I did a few of those, but this is much easier for me to see what's going on. And there's a recording process I refer to as staircasing, where you can see things are happening and then they start to evolve either ascending or descending. So you can see our guitars kind of descend here for the different movements, I guess, they're going through. Same with the keyboards here. You can see it kind of descending here. So I don't know. I find it's easier for me to kind of break up the song this way. So I can not just see the tracks and where things actually are, but I can kind of see the different movements that are here. I'm assuming this is verse. I'm assuming that's chorus, verse, chorus. We get into our bridge and then we're into our outro and then our environmental atmospheric outro there. So, all right. I think that is looking pretty good. Enough that I would make a new version here, Mix Prep 2. Are we an hour in? I started like 10 minutes late today because I was trying to get the keys stuff working. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and mute our bass, our guitars. Okay, our guitars, because we changed our tracking here. So what we can do, we'll just grab everything. We'll add all of that. There we go. And mute our keys, mute our vocals. So we're going to be probably working on our drums for a bit. I'll stay in the headphones for it. Let's have a listen here. Maybe the drums don't start right. Well, they don't. Oh, we're doing a count-in. I have a love-hate relationship with count-ins. Because maybe we don't need that first one. We might just bring in the drums over here too. We'll have a listen and see where we kind of get to. So I'm going to hop out. I know I just said I was going to stay in the headphones. I'm going to hop out of the headphones so I can use my speakers, my NS10s, just to do some filtering with the drums, just because I want to hear how it sounds. Because like the headphones are one thing, but there's a few things with just doing some high and low pass filtering. I'm just not sure about it right now. So be right back. I have to mute my microphone too, so it doesn't do phasing stuff with the headphone, the speakers and the microphone. Be right back. Don, I tried to turn it up a little bit. It's just going to be all over the place a little bit while I'm working on some of these individual tracks, but I'm sure it'll balance out soon. So just some quick EQing of the drums just to kind of clean up. A lot of high pass, low pass filtering stuff just to clean up some of the mess on either side. One thing, well, technically 5 things. Kick, snare, we'll put triggers on those just because I'm curious, because there's always things I find we're not really getting at a kick drums compared to kick drum samples. Just modern stuff. I know where it's more of a vintagey sounding, retro sounding track, but just to get a little bit of the weight out of it, there's just some different types of lower frequency, sub frequencies we can get from samples. So throw those in the toms, because they're like constantly, 1 second here. They're constantly kind of humming. There's a tone there with it. So things like that, it's save yourself some time. We throw some samples on those. That's going to help clean those up quite a bit as well, and just a little bit more power to it. Again, I'm trying not to bring in, or I'm not bringing any templated stuff in from other mix projects, but presets. Those are fair game. So I just brought one over from one of the channel strips here. I just turn off the EQ, and I'm sure it's exactly the same as the other stock Pro Tools compressor, but I just use this one. It just had a preset. It sounded pretty good. It's aggressive snare is what it was, but it's going to mess around a little bit longer on the speakers, and I just want to hear what the bass is doing too. So be right back. All right, so bass guitar there, pretty straightforward. Just a little bit of a comparative EQ here. Sometimes what I like to do is take the high pass and bring it all the way over on a bass until I don't hear it do anything, and then I bring the low pass over and kind of match it, just in case there's any high frequency weirdness going on up there. And I usually find even with the high pass, using a little bit of a filter there just seems to tighten up the bass. Sometimes there's just some weird sub stuff. So 40 hertz, not weird for me to see that. Just tighten it up a little bit. I'm going to look at then I added the Sans amp. Just use the SVT setting just to kind of get it in the ballpark and then adjust the taste from there. So I brought the punch up a little bit just to get the articulation, I guess, of some of the notes at a little bit better definition. And then I never use the LA2A. I never used it, but I thought, you know what, today I'm going to try it, and I think it sounded pretty good. I usually use 1176s, but I thought I'd try the Chris Lord Alge LA2A, see what that was sounding like. Sounded good today. Let's go for it. I'm going to mess around with the guitars for a little bit, get those cleaned up, and we'll see where we're sitting. So we're moving along now. Just had to put the box score over here just in case. Okay, to me, these guitars sound like they're recorded with the microphone pulled back a bit. Usually we have the microphone pretty close to where the speaker is, but this sounds like it's pulled back a little bit. So there's a little bit of room sound, a little bit of woolliness to it. So I think they're going to blend nicely once we have them, have those guitar 1 and 2, like hard pan left and right. It's going to sound pretty big, but it's a bit soft sounding. So be right back. Don's asking, can you guess what specific guitar that is? It sounds like humbuckers to me, so maybe a Les Paul. Probably putting my foot in my mouth right now, but it doesn't sound like a Strat. It doesn't sound like single coils to me. It sounds more like the neck pickup on a Les Paul or humbuckers, but Okay, messing around with the guitars a little bit, just kind of blocking stuff in. I feel like I still need more bite and more top end. I know that I carved some of those frequencies on the top end, just notched them a little bit, but I can notch them there where they sound decent to me here. And then I can always add that brightness back on the subgroup. So that's how I prefer to work. I can add the brightness overall once I've tamed it a little bit. Dancing, thanks, love the sound. Wasn't sure if they gave you all that info when you use the track for me. Sometimes people will add details in the comments if you get the Pro Tools session. Sometimes what you can do as well is actually look at what the band is using live. Because sometimes you see the equipment there and you're like, okay, that's the bass they're using, or okay, that's the guitar they're using. If you see the same guitar in 3 or 4 picks, it's probably safe to assume that that's what they're using for recording. That being said, not sure how old these recordings are. I did see that the band's still active on Facebook, so maybe they'll see this. Maybe they can chime in the comments what guitars they're using. All right, I'm going to look at the keys here. Be right back. This is the Andrew Shep's 1073s. I haven't messed around with it that much, but I was curious to see if we can get some drive out of it, opposed to using like Decapitator or something like that all the time. It works, but I was curious what I could get out of this, so that's why I'm messing around with it. All right. I'm going to say I have 20 minutes left, 30 minutes left. So what I want to do, I do want to put trigger 2 on the kick and snare. I'll worry about the toms if I have time and just do a quick rebalancing of everything. I'm overall happy with the individual sources. I have a feeling I know where they can get to. We'll deal with the vocals next time because we need to find a vocal sound. And then I want to put... we'll just throw something on here just to use as actually I didn't mind the crystal algae mix bus thing, but for now we'll just put something on our main mix here. Just again, we just use this kind of as like a what's what I'm looking for. It's kind of a traffic cop. It's kind of a bottleneck here just to make sure it's not going crazy. Just with our drums, but normally I would go through and add a sample for each of these kicks. We'll see what Trigger wants to do. So let's go ahead. We'll make a new track here. So I just usually put underscore and then kick for any more samples that we're using. And I'll just put on an audio track. And then I'm going to go down here. Actually, I'm going to go up to search because I can never remember where it actually is. We could put stereo on here if we wanted to, but I don't think we need to for what we're trying to accomplish. I'll just grab one of my presets here. My main rock kick seems to kind of get a lot of the jobs done for me. So this, and make that for snare. And we'll just hold Option and drag that down. Excuse me. And grab that, grab the snare one, see what happens. Also, I want to make sure our buses are going out our proper bus 1 and 2 for our kicks and snares. So because we have this just dropped on here as an audio track, we can just copy and paste that down and just have a listen, see what's happening here. It's always, that's pretty kicky. So I want to get just the boof. Now you can hear the attack that's on there. What we can do as well, because you can use the mix here to kind of hear the track in behind it. Sounds pretty good. Now there's that attack that's there, so sometimes with the curves you can just, if you just move the attack up a little bit or just soften it, so that's softening it quite a bit. So just a little bit more subs that are there. Excuse me. All right, moment of truth. Let's hear what the snare's doing. It's pretty tight. Let's have a listen here. That's definitely a different texture, but might get what we need out of it. So same thing here. We'll hear how that sounds in the track too, because sometimes samples can sound pretty samply. Until you get them actually in the track with everything. All right, I'm going to hop into the speakers for a second. I just want to check something. Don's saying the keys give it a bit of an 80s vibe. Found the band on YouTube, not on Facebook yet. Maybe so. I definitely hear the 70s vibe from it. But yeah, keys will do that. That Hammond organ, it'll definitely do that. We got a couple more minutes. There's a couple more things I want to try here. Be right back. Okay, there's things I like. There's things that I want to work on more. I'm having a hard time with the cymbals because cymbals to me, there's just like so much of it in that snare. Because it's a pretty low tuned snare. Also, sometimes when drummers don't do rim shots all the time, you're getting the sound of that top skin, but when we're missing the sound of the bottom skin, we're missing some of the texture. Not just making excuses for how the snare sounds, but there's still things about the cymbals that are getting into that. So I got to work on that a bit more. Old cliche joke with mixing. Snare sounds like garbage. We're still working on that. I just brought in like one of my kind of go-to presets for snares on trigger. So I might bring something else in next time. Cause yeah, there's lots of ways to make this snare sound better. But also, sorry, 1 second, but also, the type of track it is, we just want to get that boxiness of it. I think the boxiness does work. It's just we're missing that snare bottom. So that makes it a little bit difficult to easily get in there. We could also just gate it, and that might work as well. Because like the toms are as loud as the snare. So might end up gating it. Hear that sounds, but so I like how the overheads sound, but I don't like how the cymbals sound. They just sound really kind of, I don't want to say MIDI, but there's just like, there's a quality to it. They don't sound like, for any drummers out there, they don't sound like, you know, what am I looking for? Like AAXs, like Sabian AAXs or Zildjian A Customs. They don't sound like nice, bright, thinner cymbals. They sound like older, thicker cymbals, which have kind of a boinginess to me. That's just me though. That's just me. That's just me as someone who occasionally has played the drums once in a while. So I think this is in a pretty good spot to come back to. Try to keep these not super marathon session mixes here. Try to keep them sort of reasonable. Hour and a half, 2 hours is pretty good. Loving the bass. Loving the keys. Loving the guitars. There's lots going on here. And just experimenting with that Andrew Shepp's 1073. And we need to brighten this whole thing up, but we can do that later. Just need to tame some of the frequencies that are bugging me right now. Yeah, no, it'll be good shape when we come back to this. All right, before we get going here, remember to back up your files. I have Shift-Command-U, Shift-Command-B to remove any unused regions. That's what we're doing right there. And then, as always, File, Save, Copy in all audio files. If you don't have that, you have the recipe, but you don't have the ingredients. Hit OK. Temp back up here. I just say BU _ to do the backup on it. And we'll be good to go next time. All right. Well, that was fun. That was an adventure. It's a lot to, it's funny because like there's 33 tracks to work with here. 33. A third of it's just drums. And then they had that staircasing guitar, how they were tracking this. So like there's not that many things to deal with. And there's a couple, the keys tracks, the Hammond tracks, and then the lead vocal. And it's like, there's really not that much here, but sometimes you can get hung up on something. I've gotten hung up on the cymbals today. Sometimes you come in the next day and it sounds better to you. You're just with fresh ears and perspective on it. But I think I need to put more work into that. I do want to get some samples together for those toms there, just to make them sound a little bit bigger. And we need to find a way to solve that snare. I do think we can solve it samply using trigger. We just got to find a sample that's going to work with it. So I might do that off to the side, so that we're not sitting for 40 minutes while I go through snare samples. So I might do that off to the side and bring that in, and through the magic of editing, you can see how that goes. But yeah, I might do that in advance. So when are we back here? So far, We are kind of looking at our schedule of Mondays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that's how it's working out right now. It seems to be better in the evenings too. That being said, I usually like to try to do my critical listening in the mornings. That's why I was trying to do Mondays at 7 and Thursdays at noon, but the Thursdays at noon is not looking good anymore. So we'll see how it goes. Again, starting a new song today. The song is called Dune Rider by Impossible Colors with a U. I'm curious to do a little more research into that because us Canadians, we like you. So, once again, my name is Mike Langford, recording engineer, music producer, mixer based in Toronto, Canada. This has been Let's Mix Live, where I live stream some mix sessions start to finish, warts and all, showing some production techniques and ways that you can make your music sound better. Lots of different ways to do it. Just one of them. Once again, we get these sessions from a website called Cambridge Music Technology. Link is down below if you're watching on YouTube. Tons of multi-track sessions up there. It's used for educational purposes and hopefully entertainment purposes as well. Hopefully learn something tonight. If not, maybe next time. All right. Happy birthday, Mom, again. It's good chatting with today, and hopefully see everybody soon. All right. Thanks for watching tonight. That's my time. Really kick me out here. All right. Talk to you later.